Hello all, happy St. Patrick's Day. Today I'm going to discuss social contract theory. It's a relatively common term in political discussion, but not very well understood. I mean, I didn't sign anything, right? And some people will argue that what social contract means is that because the society you grew up in took care of you, educated you, protected you, and so forth, that then obligates you to participate in the society and support it. But that's not social contract theory. That's Plato's benefactor argument and or his creation slash parent argument. Social contract theory is a bit more nuanced. In Locke's view, it was the idea that a group of people come together and unanimously decide to contract into a society. And then, after they've done that, they decide what sort of society it'll be, what sort of government, laws, what have you. The main takeaway was that everybody is under the contract. It's supposed to counteract the divine right of kings, who, as I've discussed previously, are above the law by virtue of being its arbiters. Rousseau had a similar discussion surrounding the social compact. Likewise, he thought that it had to be unanimously decided on. The key difference is Locke's argument was hypothetical. He thought that if you live in a particular civilization, you think about whether you would voluntarily choose to contract into that, and hopefully answer yes. Rousseau was not speaking hypothetically. He actually believed that people needed to come together and discuss what sort of government they wanted to have. And they would have to do this every single generation. Now, this presents a few problems. For one, well, it's not really a problem, but what you would wind up with is lots of tiny micro-states, villages almost, where every one had a slightly different form of government. And the reason for this is, aside from the logistics, unanimity is almost impossible to achieve with anything outside of a very small, very like-minded group of people. Sometimes you wonder why the United States, with over 300 million people, can achieve an almost perfect 50-50 split on some decisions. And the reason for that is actually mathematical. It's when you've got an up or down, red or blue vote, in general, it'll trend over time towards being an even split. And the reason for this is because the moderates, those who are right on the cusp, lean just a little bit one way or the other, have to align with the most extreme elements of whatever viewpoint they support. Otherwise, for instance, if you go off and try to start a third party, you're withdrawing support from the viewpoint with which you would agree the most. So when you iterate lots of 50-50 decisions, lots of either-or decisions, rather, eventually people sort themselves into an almost evenly split set of groups. That said, the social contract theory does have its merits. It's consensual, it's voluntary, and it allows for any number of governments to be formed. It was certainly an improvement over monarchy and despotic rule, and though the folks who formed the American contract were the landowning white men of the day, it still managed to hold up over time and set the precedent for virtually all democracies, all first world societies in existence today. The biggest thing that we're missing, things that both Locke and Rousseau thought essential to the contract, was the ability to opt out. If you wouldn't, if you wouldn't hypothetically join the society, or if you don't want to actually join it, you have to be able to leave. For Rousseau, that would be going to another village with a more amenable system. For Locke, that would be going to the colonies. There's lots of land out there, lots of free space for the taking, given the rules of colonialism. And people had the option to exit. Nowadays, we don't have that right of exit. The United States, despite the debates we're having currently, is one of the more open societies as far as immigration is concerned. Most countries have incredibly strict immigration policies. So what we lack, above all, in our current system is the ability to opt out of the contract. And as I said earlier, contract requires consent. So if you didn't choose to contract into whatever agreement you're a part of, that agreement's invalid. And if you can't choose to exit it, it's equally invalid. Something to think about.